For this year, it's going to be my Joshiest year ever. Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 1 of Road to the Scale Nationals 2022. And I feel like, and you probably feel the same way, like we've already done this. We've already been here. What are we doing here again? Well, I didn't get to go last year. Or in fact, the year before that. It seems a lot of things have happened. And here we are, we're doing it again. And you might say to yourself, well, you already built all those trucks, just use those. I'm here for the challenge. I don't want to use old junk, I want to use new junk. If you're not familiar with the Scale Nationals, it's a national level event where guys like me drive their tiny trucks through all kinds of gates and hopefully make it all the way through. Nationals are all based around the Sorrca set of rules, and Sorrca has a website. I'll put a link down below so you can check out all of these rules for yourself. But in the spirit of Josh, I'm going to try to at least bend those rules as much as I can. And I will be competing in all 3 classes: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Josh and I decided it would be best to do all of them to give ourselves the most amount of work in the least amount of time possible. If you're interested in learning more about Sorrca and what scale comps are all about, I actually invite you to go back and watch this whole series on Road to the Scale Nationals that I didn't go to. I explain in a lot more detail what all those classes mean and how certain trucks can fit into them. Definitely check that out. The Scale Nationals this year are going to be held in Little Rock City, Arkansas. No, Little Rock City, Alabama. I'll be driving down there in April, second week of April, I believe it is, and competing in all 3 classes. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a long time since I've been able to go to a comp, so here's hoping. Let's go through each of the builds, and we'll kind of go through it by class. I mean, I'm pretty classy already. For the first time ever, I'm really trying to go for the actual comp side of things. Usually I would just build a truck that looked really good and not have it perform very well. But this year in all 3 classes, I'm going for performance first. Well, mostly performance first and then scale second. Okay, Class 1. This is on the new Brazen Scale RC C1 Pro chassis. This has just been released today, so far as I know. I've had mine for a short time. I've been fiddling with it a little bit, getting used to how to set it all up, and this is going to be the basis of Class 1. Class 1, of course, is the most scale accurate of the classes, if we're not counting Class 0, which isn't officially recognized by Sorrca yet. Maybe it will be, who knows. This is sort of going to be the hard body build that's going to look as realistic as possible, but still have some performance built in. And what you're seeing is sort of the bare bones, what you get from Brazen with a few additions here. They're offering this a few different ways, aluminum and carbon fiber, if you are so inclined and like to spend money. They're going to offer it as rails only, which is just the chassis rails, or rails with hoops. Aluminum or carbon fiber hoops are available as well. Or a full package. Rails, hoops, skid, servo mount, sliders. I'm sort of in between here with mine. This is most of those things minus the sliders. I haven't really yet decided on what body I'm going to go with yet. I've got some ideas percolating, but I'm not entirely sold on that idea yet. So for the time being, no sliders are on my truck. You also probably see that these are Vanquish F10 portals underneath. And yes, Class 1 portals. Who would have thunk it? Me. Brazen suggests this portal is a good setup for this chassis. You get a lot of clearance with the portal, of course, yet there's still a fair bit of low CG built into this chassis, so I think we're going to be okay in that regard. What else can I tell you? This skid will accept the TGH transfer case. It'll accept a 3-gear center-mounted transmission if that's more of your style. There's a lot of different mounting points on this skid, so really the world is your oyster. You can choose just about anything you like. I do have an order from TGH coming. That's Team Garage Hack. I'm going to go with their forward motor mount, which gives me a lot of great low CG with the motor, and I'll also be going with their transfer case. It's a great setup. That transfer case has 30% overdrive built in. That's going to be really helpful and really effective in Class 1. It's actually almost a Class 2 in Class 1 clothing. A couple of the selling points of this new chassis, the C1 Pro, is that the belly is really short in comparison to some other competitors on the market. So you get a nice breakover angle, lots of room. It does have to be a flat skid in C1, so there's no angled skid here. That is key to keeping it within the rules. No additional brackets are required for mounting your TGH motor mount up front here, whether it's in its regular position or its mirrored position. And that, of course, will come into effect with your portal axle, because your pumpkin is offset on this and you don't want to get anything in the way of any of the moving parts or the links. So that'll all be really great once that's all done. That's it for now. That's Class 1-ish. I am auditioning a body, and what I'm looking at getting is over here. Some of you may have seen bits and pieces of this already on the Class 2 truck. It's a work in progress, obviously. This will be a Jeep at some point. Oh yeah, here's the rest of it. Yeah. As you can see, it's not quite done yet. But for Class 1, I will be doing a full bed, full cab, full interior, all the bits and pieces, and it'll maybe at some point look like a Jeep. Maybe. We'll see. Brazen also sent along these, and I'm not sure where they're supposed to go on the truck. Just makes my mouth water just thinking about it. Blech. Maybe I'll hand these over to the judges before I start my run so I can distract them, and they won't see all my reverses. As for electronics, it's still very early days. It's not really. I have to have these done by April. But in terms of what I have available to me, rest assured, whatever electronics I decide on, the Holmes Hobbies BLS SHV 500 V3 steering servo will be the one I will be using up front here. I still have to make some other decisions on motor, ESC, and winch even, but this will definitely make its way in there. It was very cool of Brazen to send me that chassis. I'm really excited to build that one up. I think it's going to be great. And actually, if I'm honest, mirrors quite closely what's happening in Class 2 and Class 3. And here's that build. This is the TGH Sherpa, Holmes Hobbies branded chassis kit. And there's a lot more to look at, thankfully, with this one. And the reason I say Class 2 and 3 is that this truck will be used in both classes. Yes, I'm going to kind of set it up to work for both. As it's set up right now, we've got the Team Garage Hack forward motor mount that I've mirrored, and their TGH transfer case, again offering 30% overdrive to the front axle, so you don't have to change any gearing up front. You could go more extreme if you wanted to with a different ring and pinion, of course, but I'm going to stick with 30%. That's probably all it's going to need, if I'm honest. The reason that this can be used for both Class 2 and Class 3 is that it's got rear steer capability. This is the front. This is the rear. And as you can see, I've put steering axles on both ends. What I'll do for Class 2 is lock this out in the rear so it cannot be used. You can only use forward steer in Class 2, therefore you must lock out the rear axle. Otherwise, Sorrca won't allow this to compete in Class 2. It's totally fine in Class 3. You can choose either rear steer or dig. And I'm just decided to go with rear steer. It's a lot of fun. I like it. I've set up these Traxxas big bores in droop. There's a lot of aluminum parts and some Delrin parts that I've added to make them function better for droop setup. The reason I like droop is that it does give you more down travel than up travel and keeps the center of gravity and your chassis quite low. I think it's going to look great. To power this truck, I'm using a Holmes Hobbies Revolver V2 2200 kV. It will all be powered through their tiny little ESC, the Crawlmaster ESC. This is dead silent with that Revolver, which is so much nicer than the noise the Revolver usually makes. So that's going to be great. I'll also be running Holmes steering servos, front and rear. They'll be getting the SHV 500 low profiles, and I've got 2 of those here. 680 ounce-inches of torque. That's a lot, and plenty for me. I know Josh is probably going to overdo it and put like 3,000 ounce-inches of torque, but you don't need it. Maybe you do. I don't know. Anyway, this is in a much better shape. Currently, I've got Proline Hyraxes on there with Crawler Innovations foams. I vented these tires because it is a comp. I always vent if I'm comping, not so much if I'm just trail riding. One benefit to Class 2 is you are allowed to have an angled skid. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but it does angle the skid quite dramatically forward, and that's to help with breakover angle and to keep you going. Slide over an obstacle, you get to a certain point, it's just going to tip itself forward. And that's a really great feature to have. Not legal in Class 1, certainly legal in Class 2 and 3. I've currently got my links set up here for a slightly shorter overall wheelbase. This is closer to 12, right on the mark. And I kind of like that. It actually does shorten it a little bit, but it feels pretty good to me. It's a good wheelbase length. And a body choice for Class 2 and 3, quite similar to Class 1, in fact. It's also going to be getting a Jeep J6 prototype body, 3D printed. This one's obviously going to be a lot less body. I'm probably going to do a truggy style. I won't get truggy points because you need actual cage to replace the rear rails. We're not going to be doing that. We're just going to go truggy look. I'll get some points for the cage itself. And it's essentially going to be, you know, it's not actually probably going to sit this low. It would be cool if it did, but that might be a bit too low. But yeah, that's actually, you know what? That looks pretty good. I'm going to have to see if we can make that work somehow. Okay, so yeah, that's where it's at right now. I know, it's the first week of January, and time's ticking down. So, there you go. Class 1, Brazen Scale RC C1 Pro. Class 2/3, Team Garage Hack Sherpa Pro. Among other things. I'll be sure to put links down below to all of the products I've used today, so you can pick them up and comp along with me. The thing that I think I'm going to have to focus the most attention on between now and the actual comp is driving and testing. And unfortunately, there is snow outside. And all the rocks I like are covered with that stuff. Makes it a lot harder to do anything productive. The other thing I'm going to have to work on is my comp stance. It's way out of practice after being 2 years without a comp. Are you looking forward to this comp season? Do you comp at all? Do you comp locally? Do you comp on a more national scale? No pun intended. Put your comments down below. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you like this video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. This is going to be an ongoing series. There will be a lot more to share with you in the coming weeks. We're going to do this every other week, starting with this Wednesday. So be sure to check that out. Ring that notification bell so you can see these updates when they happen. I'm very excited. I really hope that I get to go. I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again on the next one.